Hello, John Talley here with Partzilla.com. Today I'm going to show you how to rebuild the front calipers on our 2007 Suzuki GSXR 1000. Pretty simple to do, just want to get it lifted up so it's a little bit easier to work on. Grab a couple of tools and I'll show you how to get it done. Alright guys, this is going to be a skill level 2, but just barely. Don't be that afraid of it. The biggest thing you need to be concerned with is to keep everything clean, because as you're pulling it apart, you could be introducing contaminants to the inside of the system. Alright, as far as the tools that we're going to need, you're going to need a decent torque wrench, a good ratchet as always, just a small 3/8 extension, a 5mm Allen, a T40 Torx, 12mm socket, little 8mm box end wrench, and a pick tool. Now, as far as the parts that you're going to need, there's a couple of different ways you can do this. You can actually buy just the seal kit, or you can buy what they call the piston kit, and that gives you all the seals and the O-ring and all the pistons, and that's the one I've decided to go with. Now, if you would, reference our parts diagrams, take a look at it, and make your own decision as to which kit will better fit the condition of your particular machine. So, once you've got all your tools together and your parts, we can go over there and I'll show you how to do it. Alright, let's start by laying down a couple of rags on the rim. Even though they look a little bit rough, I still want to protect them because, well, I don't want them to look any worse. So we want to start by just removing the brake line. When you're pulling this apart, make sure you keep up with all your individual crush washers, because otherwise it's going to leak horribly when you go to put it back together. Alright, so basically this thing's going to run out all the brake fluid, but that's okay. I just don't want any to get on the calipers or the rim and stay on there. Alright, now that we have the brake line removed, let's at least just break loose these two pins that actually go through the brake pads. Then we're going to go ahead and remove these two bolts that hold the caliper on. What led me to have to rebuild these? Well, it was losing brake fluid, and we bled it multiple times, and you could actually see a fluid on the caliper itself. So, I'm going to take it over to the teardown bench, and I'll show you how to pull it apart and rebuild it. Let's go ahead and get these brake pads out of here, because they are brand new, and I don't want to get any brake cleaner or brake fluid on them, because once you contaminate them, it's pretty much game over and you'd have to replace them. So we're going to go ahead and get those out and put them to the side. Now, we'll go ahead and remove that little spring, and then we're going to clean it up, because the real trick is to get it as clean as you can on the outside using brake cleaner, then pull it apart, because we don't want to introduce any contaminants inside the caliper, because as you would expect, the outside of the caliper is absolutely saturated with brake dust. So we want to get as much of that off before we pull it apart. We just want to go ahead and remove the bleeder valve here, and then we have 3 Torx bits that we need to get out. And the Torx bit is actually a T40. Alright, now you just have this little O-ring right there that actually connects the two halves together, and then you can see the actual pistons that are on each side. Now the kit I'm using actually replaces that O-ring, the inner and the outer seals, and the actual piston. So I'm doing all of it with this one particular kit, and of course you will need 2 of these kits if you're going to do both sides, which I highly recommend. Now that we've actually got this split open to where I can get in there a little bit better, let's clean it up just a little bit more before I take out these cups. Now that we have it cleaned up reasonably well, let's go ahead and get those pistons out of there. What I'm going to do is use just a little bit of air pressure, not a lot, because you could fire these things out of here like a damn cannonball and hurt yourself or somebody nearby. So we're just going to use a little bit of air pressure to coax these out. So we're going to wrap that up, aim this kind of downward, see if we can get them to come out. Gee, I wonder why we were having a problem with the brakes on this one, feeling a little spongy. Look at this goo that's down in there. Yuck. I'll bet you it looks the same on this other half. Yeah, look at that. Sludge. That is just absolutely nasty looking. So, since this is such a mess, we're going to pull these out. Of course, we're replacing them anyway, but I'm actually going to use brake cleaner to clean all this out. Look at this sludge. That is just nasty. Now I'm using brake cleaner on the inside of this. I didn't really want to. I would have rather just have used brake fluid to clean it out. It was so bad. I would have had to use a gallon of it to try to get this cleaned out. Once we're sure that we have it cleaned out, then we'll go ahead and recoat all the surfaces, all those little inlets with at least a coat of brake fluid. Well, without a doubt, the most time-consuming part of this whole procedure is the length of time it takes to clean all this stuff up. But I guarantee you it'll be worth it if you really, really get everything clean in here. So let's go ahead and get a little bit in the bores and then out to the fill. We don't want to leave the brake fluid on the outside of it any longer than we have to, because it will eat into the finish. But it's important that we get the brake fluid on all the interior surfaces. All right, now we can go ahead and start putting our dust seals and inner seals back in there. Let's start with the small seal, then the small outer dust seal, larger inner, and its dust seal as well. And make sure both of them have a coating of brake fluid on them, and they're pushed all the way up into their grooves. Next, let's go ahead and put some brake fluid on the pistons. Then we'll get them pushed in there. And let's get the other side. Make sure your hands are just completely clean. If you're not sure of it, go put on another pair of gloves. Now, let's go ahead and get this little rubber O-ring back in here and bolt them back together. Now we want to torque these to 16 foot-pounds. Now we've got our bleeder valve in. Let's go ahead and put the cap on it. What I want to do now is just keep my finger over where the brake line hose actually goes in and just spray this down one more time from the outside to get all this brake fluid off of it, because I don't want it to contaminate the brake pads or to damage the paint on the caliper. All right, this one's ready to go, so let's get it back on the machine. All right, let's go ahead and connect up our brake line before we get our brake shoes in there. Just put a little bit of snugness on that, and we'll actually torque it once we get it mounted back to the carrier. Now, let's clean it up one more time, get off any brake fluid that may have gotten on the caliper. Let's go ahead and get our spring back in there. Now, we can put in our pads. Just get the pins in there finger tight, just to hold them in place. Push them all the way back, slide it over the rotor. Now bolt it back down. Let's get everything torqued down. Our caliper mounting bolts are 28 foot-pounds. Those in place. Let's go ahead and get our union bolt. It's actually 16.5. We're going to go ahead and just take it to 17. And last but not least, our brake pad mounting pins are 11.5, so we're going to take it to 12. All right, guys, that wraps up this side. Pretty much all I need to do is just the exact duplicate over on the left side of the machine. After that, we just need to bleed the brakes. And if you would, reference our video that shows you how to do that on this particular machine. Well, listen, if you need any of the parts that we use to do this, why don't you come see us at partzilla.com and we can get you taken care of. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the section below and I'll do my best to answer them. Until next time, we just want to say thanks for watching.